Good morning, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Good Morning Soul. And this is gonna be a little bit of a memory trip. I'm going to be talking about the title of this is gonna be like my perfect video game or something like that. And even though like I have so many ideas, like the second I hear what would like your perfect video game be, like every like cool video game idea I've ever had, but probably wouldn't actually work because I don't know anything about video game design, instantly comes into my brain. But I'm specifically going to be talking about a video game like as a child, like I actually wanted to be created and I actually wanted it to be like a real thing, like and this requires an origin story. Like as a kid, me, my brother, and like a couple of his friends, like we didn't have a lot to do back then. There was no what there is today. We had obviously games and movies and such, but I wasn't like as into that stuff back then, and I was definitely more of an outdoor kid. Like half the time I say half the time I was an indoor kid and half the time I was an outdoor kid. And the outdoor like setting just came to be because all my friends were outside and I loved like going on bike rides and stuff like that, going down to see them. And other things we would do, there was this game that we would play, like it was kind of like LARPing, but it like wasn't LARPing. It was kind of just like us having toys and like lightsabers and dumb shit like that, and then we'd like add a little bit of like story or whatever. Like we'd be like, okay, you two are on this team, you two are on this team, and then we'd like give ourselves like like dumb powers, like dumb little things to make it more interesting. And I think I was more into this than the other guys, because I was like, no, we should get like story into this, like real story. Like we should write down all of these things, and I had all of these ideas. And we really never did any of that. I think we kind of just stopped completely before I even like was able to present most of the ideas. But I was having so much fun like creating these little stories and creating these little things that it became its own like separate thing. And I really like, I remember as a kid I would like sit down, like I'd get a little TV tray and I'd write down all these things. And a lot of the times like these, like I had, to give you an idea, like a stack, I had like folders full of like character ideas and like little story pieces. And eventually I was like, I don't even know what to call all of this stuff that I have. If I were to call it anything, it's like a video game idea, an idea that I'm expressing like down to the last little detail, like even like dialogue options and little things like that. And what the game was about, essentially, like it was a far cry from like our original like fucking around with. I'm trying not to curse in this series, even though I know it won't make any money, but I'm gonna try not to curse as much. But when we were messing around with swords to like what it eventually became to me, like two completely different things. But originally the idea I had was, it was basically kind of like a ripoff of the Fable games. If you ever played those, Fable 1, 2, and 3. Or, well, Fable 2 and 3 weren't out yet at the time. So it was just Fable 1. And my idea was you were like a little kid, very much like in Fable, and then you grew up in like this guild, very much like in Fable. And and in Fable there's these guys called heroes, who are like kind of like these people who go on quests and save the kingdom and do missions. Like if you have a problem, then you like ask for a hero to come and save you and do all that stuff. And that's the same idea I had for here. And I thought there would be like 100 heroes, like it would be ranked one, like you have to, and if like another hero has to die for you to become a hero. So like there would be this big opening, like however many hours opening, where you'd meet like your family members who are also heroes, like your brother, sister, like probably your parents. I don't know all of the details because this is obviously like I did this in like 3rd to like 6th grade. No, not even that. Like I want to say like 3rd to 4th grade. That sounds about right. So, and basically there was going to be all these plot twists. Like every hero has like kind of like an assistant guy like this like I don't even know how to describe it. Like I think I had like its own word for it, but I can't remember it at the moment. And like the big reveal of the game was like like that, like this assistant like guy is like convincing the main character that like the entire guild is corrupted, which it kind of was, and eventually he was gonna like help you like take out all 100 heroes, and that was like the plot of the game, that you are like because your family members like abandon you as a kid, so it's like you don't really care like when you eventually fight them. But at the end of the game, like it was supposed to be this big reveal, like if like you like there was this area within the game where like if you beat all the other ones, like if you're like the hero, like number one, you're able to go here. And the big reveal was like that was a lie, and then your assistant actually turns out to be like the big bad guy of the game, who's been like showing up every once in a while. And the storyline I didn't get as much into. I just remember making like a lot of like maps. Like I would map out like on pieces of paper. Like I remember working for hours on this big piece of paper, like room for room, what was in like the guild. Like this would be this guy's room, what's in their room. Like outside, what's going on? There's like chariot races and like little combat sparring areas, and there's like a food area obviously, and there's shops and all these other things. I specifically remember getting really mad, like I was very like sensitive about this. Like I remember specifically not sharing this with that many people, and then when I showed it to other people, they didn't seem to get it at all, so like that just made me more self-conscious about it. And I remember like I was doing this in class, where I maybe did this in class like 20% of the work I did for this. And I remember a teacher like saying, "Oh, you can't," like it was like after a test or something, and she was like, "What are you doing? Like give me that." And she took the piece of paper, just kind of looked at it, and then like walked back to her desk, and I was freaking the hell out. I was like, what is she doing? Like what is she thinking about me? Like she doesn't understand what this is. Like what is she gonna do? And then she never gave me back that piece of paper that I spent hours working on. And like she never brought it up. She like after like the test or whatever, like class ended, and then she just walked out the room, and I was kind of just like, what? And then I like looked around for this piece of paper and I couldn't find it, and I was so pissed. God. And I remember like my dad was still around at the time, and I remember like him finding like a piece of paper like and being like, "Oh, what is this?" And I was like, don't look at it. And he's like, "I'm gonna look at it." And he looked at it, and I was like, you don't really understand it, do you? And he just gave it back to me and was like, whatever. And that's how I think most of the interactions with this went. And eventually like I just kind of came to the realization like I couldn't do anything with this, and this was kind of like a waste of time. I remember specifically like burning. I literally like burnt in our fireplace like most of the pages for this, like because I didn't know what else to do with it. Like I felt weird having it. I think I was so sensitive back then that I like hid the pieces of paper like in my closet, and then like eventually like because my friends would be over, and then like if they just saw this random stack of pieces of paper in my room, they'd probably ask what was going on with it. And I was so sensitive about it. God, I was such a wimpy kid back then. But eventually, you know, I burned it. I think I remember even restarting it. And I did this. I started a couple other video game ideas. Like I remember trying to make like a Dragon Ball video game. There was a couple. There was like one or two other ones. None of them went that far, other than this one. The game was called Warrior. Like instead of heroes like in Fable, there was warriors. There was 100 warriors. And I remember trying to revamp it, and the same thing happened. I was still sensitive about it, and I eventually just got rid of all the pieces of paper, and you know, it's gone. And I kind of wish I hadn't done that. I think it would be a fun memory to look back on, but at the same time, I moved so much as a kid that like holding on to like that much stuff like seems kind of pointless now. So maybe it was for the best, but at the same time, I still have that weird memory. I was always a weird kid who like would like writing lists. I remember like writing a schedule of what I was going to do every day. I remember like all these things that I was going to try to do, and all these like things I do with pieces of paper, these fun little projects, these fun writing things. I think that's what transitioned into me becoming, a novel guy, and eventually that turned into me becoming a YouTuber guy. And I still obviously write novels whenever I have free time for it. So I think that's always kind of been a part of me. I don't think that's ever gonna go away. I think I'm always gonna be like this guy who, when things are in paper, they're kind of like finalized for me. I still will like even today I was like, what do I need to do today, and I'll write out everything I need to do, and like I really like that feeling of like checking things off and like crossing things off lists. I think that's why I like playing games for like whenever I like watch shows. Like I'll be like, oh, let's watch all these shows and like cross it off one by one. And even like series that I'm doing on the main channel, like all the Oscars, other things that you guys haven't even seen yet. All those are like projects that involve like taking things off one by one, numbers, breaking things down on paper, all the things that like I for some reason really am into. Making lists. Lists are like crack to me. I don't know why. I'm just so into stuff like that. And yeah, and that eventually led to me making a weird video game design. I don't know what else to call it other than like my grand idea for this video game that will never be created. And there's so many little pieces that I don't even remember. I really remember like a couple of the characters I created. I remember making a bunch of dialogue options. Like it was supposed to also I remember playing Fallout 3 around this time also, so I think like I was like so inspired by like the optional dialogue in Fallout that I was gonna try to have it here. And the main guy like was gonna be like a customizable, like good or evil, however you want to play type of guy. Very much like in Fable and like in Fallout, which were obviously my inspirations for this game. And I obviously was probably just copying them straight up. But at the time, obviously, I didn't think like, oh, you can't just copy other people's video games and make it your own. But yeah, and that's basically my story of my little video game idea that I had as a kid. And I think that's gonna be it for this one. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning. And with that, I leave you.